Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, I'm the Game Boy Guru and welcome to another pickups video and my first pre-recorded video of 2026. And so it took forever to get the last video out. My plan is to record this video today and actually get it edited and uploaded today. We'll see if that happens, but this is going to be all my pickups from October through December of 2025. I've got a decent amount to show off here, and so I guess we'll get started with a couple of items I picked up at a game store a while back, and I actually bought three things, but one of them I forgot I already had. I did not check my listing, and so I have it as a duplicate, and I'll need to turn that around at some point. But this is a little bit more than I wanted to pay, but it was cheaper than some of the other copies I've seen in the wild. And so that is the Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. I actually got the other Mario and Sonic game as a new release when I bought my Wii U. This was actually part of my Christmas present when I got the Wii U, and so I still have the blue Wii Motion Plus remote and other stuff for the game, but I never had this one, and this one has gone up in price in recent years, and I just never see it cheap. And so anyway, I decided to go ahead and pick this one up. I also, at that same store, managed to find a box copy of the original Fire Shark. Now, I already had an original Fire Shark cartridge, and I have the Fire Shark re-release that came in this Tool Plan set that's down here on my shelf over there. And so did I need a new copy or a different copy of Fire Shark? No, I didn't, but in my opinion, it's the best version of the game, and I got it for a song, so I decided to pick it up. So there you go, Fire Shark. Let's move on to a couple of other random things. This was something that I went ahead and bought on Amazon. I didn't pre-order it, but since the developer and the publisher said they were going to print it as, continue to print it as long as there was demand, I decided to wait a little bit, and I went ahead now and bought the Lunar Remastered Collection, which of course collects Lunar and Lunar 2. Now, these are based on the Saturn and PlayStation releases with the updated graphics and so forth, not on the Sega CD originals. But unfortunately, these are going to be slightly different translations and voiceovers to the PlayStation versions that I'm used to. I still have those, so I can go back and play them, but this will be fun to go through these games again and play through them and check them out. Some random stuff that, or not some random stuff that I got in the mail from Limited Run here over the last little while. I bought the PlayStation 4 version of Steel Assault. This is, of course, a action platformer that was really well regarded and has reviewed very well. And so as usual, I haven't cracked this open. I always wait to do it until we get on camera. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no manual in this, which is unusual. But because limited run releases almost always have a manual. But I think this might have just been a distributed title rather than a limited run, quote-unquote, full release. But this one should prove challenging. I got these two releases. Maybe no, these are not. These might not be. No, these are. I guess they're Clear River. Technically, it's limited run. It's the same parent company. It's all owned by Embracer, but it's Total Plan Collection Volume 1 and 2. Total Plan Arcade Collection Volume 1 and 2. This compiles all of the, or nearly all of the Total Plan shooters. Volume 1 has Tiger Heli, Flying Shark, Twin Cobra, Fire Shark, Outzone, Fixate, Dogyun, and Batsugun. And then Volume 2 has Slap Fight, Truxton, Hellfire, Twin Hawk, Zero Wing, Vimana, Truxton 2, and Grindstormer. So I think that is all of their shmups. Anyway, these are based on the Bitwave ports that came out on Steam, rather than the M2 Arcade Garage releases, which have trickled out much more slowly. The last one now has been, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago? Because I think the last one that came out was the Zero Wing collection, which of course was, or Zero Fire collection, which was Zero Wing and Hellfire. So, yeah, I don't know. That's, it could be interesting to see how that develops. I don't know if we're going to get any more Arcade Garage releases, or if Total Plan is just done with them. I also got the standard PlayStation version of Eartheon, and I think the special edition Switch version might still be on pre-order. I need to double check. And I know that I bought the vinyl soundtrack as well. So there's that. And I also went ahead and bought the Eartheon 8-bit DOE M30 controller. Big fan of the M30 and have been using that for some time. And so I figured maybe by buying a second one, I wouldn't have to go back and forth with it on so many different systems. But let's break into this bad boy here and show it off. That is the Eartheon 8-bit DOE M30. And that is a pretty controller. Very visually busy, but yeah, always comfortable to use and hold. So looking forward to that. Maybe when maybe when the Mega Drive or Genesis version finally drops and I get that in hand, I will stream the game using the 8-bit DOE Eartheon controller paired to the 8-bit DOE receiver that's plugged into my Genesis, and maybe I'll play it with this controller just so that so that I've got you know, that sort of full experience, if you will. I can get this back in the slip case or slip cover, maybe. There we go. And then I also picked up the Switch version of Gradius Origins. I already bought it on Steam, I think day one, and already got a 1cc of Salamander 3 pretty quickly. Of course, the real challenge in the game is getting through multiple loops, which I haven't been able to do yet because Loop 2 immediately ramps up to pretty ridiculous levels. But this is a good collection, and one that I know I'll be coming back to spend more time with it. Okay, on a bit of a sad note, I've got some new games to show off, but they are unfortunately the final physical releases from a particular publisher, and that is the French outfit Two Minds. They had done a number of games over time for the Master System, and then more recently the Game Gear. And so I bought a few things from Two Minds before they closed up shop, including the final release that they did. And so I got this Voyage, A Sorceress's Vacation, which is kind of an action platformer. And I don't know if I want to cut the sticker. Oh, I guess I don't have to. So there's your standard Master System cart. There's a little card and a flyer in here. And then the manual, which is interesting. It's not an upright manual, it's a it's a horizontal manual. But this is what, 5 different languages in here? English, German, Spanish, French, and Italian, I think. Which makes sense because it's, you know, it's a European publisher. But that's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. I'll have to break out the power base converter for my for my Genesis. There's also Baraburu, another action platformer, but this one is single screen and is a bit more like a Bubble Bobble kind of idea. So there's your cartridge there. Oh, this is cool. A little flyer, a little poster flyer that is a Baraburu or Flight of Pegasus, which was the first Two Minds release that I bought, and I covered on my podcast way back when. And so I might have to frame that because that's a nice looking poster. My Flight of Pegasus is actually right here on the shelf behind me that I picked up, like I said, several years ago when they kind of first got going. And then of course the Baraburu manual, which will be similar in that you know, multiple languages and so forth. They could have done full color manuals for these, but it feels right that they did simple manuals that kind of mirror what you might have got from a Master System game back in the day. And then the final release from Two Minds, the final physical version that they released was Frontier Force. This, of course, being from Bad Computer or Bad Computer Zero developer, and this is a cool game. It's kind of a single screen shooter where you just move your character back and forth and and blast enemies, but very challenging and some cool mechanics and stuff going on. So here you've got Frontier Force cartridge there. Once again, another flyer or poster. Nice Frontier Force poster. Again, I might have to frame a couple of these and put them up. And then manual with, once again, multiple languages. So it's sad that Two Minds is going away. Oh, that's right. These are reversible. So that's pretty cool that you've got the one side that's the more traditional grid look, and the other that is more focused on the key art and doesn't have the grid on the front. I honestly find the grid oddly charming. Maybe it's just nostalgia, even though I was never a Master System kid and I only got to play it a little bit at a couple of friends' houses, but I feel like having the grid art on display is right. At least it's right for me and my collection. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, once I put these on the shelf, I'm not really going to have room for any more Master System games on this shelf, unless I do a little bit of shuffling. So we'll have to see how that goes. I don't see that many Master System games in the wild these days, but then there are no game stores open anywhere near me anymore, except for two small ones that the only Master System stuff they get is common stuff that I already have. Okay, random eBay find. Or rather, not so random eBay find. This was one that I bought purposely, and I'm planning on getting the other two physical releases of this as well. But for those who are unaware, the original Xbox didn't have much for shoot-'em-ups, at least not in the West. There were a handful that released in Japan. There was a good Shikigami no Shiro release, a couple of releases, and some Saivariar releases. But here in the West, other than some compilations like the Capcom Classics collections, there's a Tecmo Arcade collection, and a couple of things like that, we really didn't get much for shmups in the West. But the one higher profile release, I'll say, that we received was a game called Cyanide, which is sort of an odd combination of shmup and rail shooter. I thought it was pretty cool, and it's one of the games that helped me to kind of, I won't say get back into the genre, because I never got out of the genre, but helped me steer my focus back more toward the genre when I played that along with a bunch of other games for a high score competition back in 2014. And so anyway, the game got a sequel called Cyanide Resurrection. And this came out on PC, PSP, and PS2. Strangely, not on the Xbox. But this was from PlayLogic, and this is, of course, the PC version on DVD. And so I do plan on picking up the PS2 and PSP versions. PSP version, of course, will be playable in any system because the PSP is region-free. PS2 version is Japan and Europe only, I think. We did not get this here in North America. And, of course, this is the PEGI European release. But this will be playable on, a standard PC. My gaming PC does have a DVD drive, so I'll have to see if this installs and if I can play it. The the requirements are Windows 2000 or Windows XP and Vista. So we shall see whether or not this is playable. But I do want to cover the Cyanide games on my podcast at some point. So I figured, I might as well find this on eBay while it's cheap. Oh, let's see here. I got this in the mail from Castlemania here a while back, and that is P47-2 MD, and then it came with this little mini CD soundtrack. And so we'll go ahead and break into this guy. I can break the plastic without... Oh, I guess there's space in between here. Yeah, that should be enough to tear through the plastic. At least get this started. I'll have to cut out the little thing on the back here. But yeah, here you've got your standard slipcover that Retrobit is doing for all of these Sega Genesis and Mega Drive re-releases that they're doing. And so there's the box itself. Yeah, well, there you've got a smoky gray translucent cart. And then the manual, which I love. P47MD, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Confidential Document, Office of Strategic Services. That's kind of a fun detail. But yeah, the usual high quality, glossy manual, full color. And so that looks pretty slick. And then you have the mini soundtrack, which, as those of you who watch these pickups videos will know, once I unpackage the soundtrack, that pretty much always goes directly to the home computer or my media server, so I can rip the CD. Oh, interesting. It's a little flap. And then, of course, the disc is right there. But it does have 12 tracks. So I'm guessing these are kind of standard two-loop versions. But this is through City Connection. And that's a pretty slick little package. Normally I would put the CDs on the shelf in the CD collection, but this little mini, I don't know. Either I'll display this on top in the home office with the CD collection alongside my box sets, or maybe I'll see if I can. Let's see if it'll fit inside of the case. Not quite. So I probably won't try to squeeze it in there. That'll be a little bit too much. But I'll figure out where to put this. But yeah, that's definitely going into the media server to be ripped and available to listen to. And now that I've got a couple of these releases, I might have to do a stream with some of these indie re-releases. These Master System games and Genesis stuff. But yeah, P47-2 MD. Okay, let's see here. We'll go with a handful of items I got from Play Asia. I got the Capcom Built Action Collection. And this compiles Final Fight, King of Dragons, Captain Commando, Knights of the Round. Let's see here, what else? Powered Gear. I don't even know what game that is. Battle Circuit, and then there's one other that I can't remember what it is. But yeah, belt scrollers. And that should be pretty cool. That was a fun pickup. I enjoy these games. I am not one who is prone to 1cc'ing these kinds of games as I am with shmups. These are more I just credit feed and enjoy the ride. But yeah. But speaking of shmups, I also picked up Irem Collection Volume 1, which has Image Fight, and that includes the arcade, Famicom, NES, and PC Engine versions. Excuse me, Image Fight 2, which was PC Engine only, and then the arcade version of X Multiply. Pardon me. I also picked up Irem Collection Volume 2, which has Gun Force, 2 different iterations of that on the arcade, as well as the Super Famicom and Super NES releases. Geostorm, which it says there are 2 different iterations of the arcade version, so that'll be interesting. And then Air Duel, which is a shmup for the arcade. And Irem Collection Volume 3, which has Mr. Heli, and that has 2 different arcade versions. I'm assuming one of them is Mr. Heli and the other is Battle Chopper, which was the Western release. It also has the PC Engine version. It has Mystic Riders, and there's 2 different arcade iterations there, and then 2 different arcade builds of Dragon Breed, which is a pretty cool game. I am not hopeful that we are ever going to see the special edition limited box versions of the Irem collections that were promised through Strictly Limited games. So I figured in the meantime I would buy these so I at least have them to play. And then I also bought this, and I pre-ordered this with this other stuff. And of course this is the Tears of the Kingdom Zelda amiibo, but it's the Japanese version. I had forgotten that I ordered it because these took a while to get here. And so in the meantime, I ended up picking up the North American version, as you might have seen in a previous video. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I'm either going to hold on to it, or maybe I'll pass this on to a friend. We'll see. Okay, random game store stuff. I went to a game store that I had never really been to before because I'd never been to this community before, but I took several trips over the late summer, early fall to see some concerts, and 2 of those I went to the same town 2 months apart. And on one of those trips, I ended up stopping at a game store and picked up some random stuff. This was called Gamers HQ. And so I picked up a PSP game that I didn't have. This is Brooktown High, kind of a goofy high school dating simulator thing. but with these exaggerated characters and stuff like that. It's funny. This even has a MySpace link for the game on the back of the box. But I don't, this is one of those PSP games I don't recall ever seeing in the wild. And it was dirt cheap, so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pick that up. Another relatively cheap game that I've never seen in the wild is Gubble for the original PlayStation. And this is sort of a maze puzzle game of sorts. But yeah, I've never heard of this, and I thought it was interesting. Well, this manual is out of alignment with the guides on the... There we go. Yeah, I'd never heard of this one, and so I thought, yeah, I'll pick that up. And then a couple of nice finds, because I didn't buy this one. I didn't pre-order this one when it came out, but the TMNT Cowabunga collection, of course this is the PS4 version, and this has 13 TMNT games. If memory serves, this is all 3 NES games, all 3 Game Boy games, at least the platform or the action games. Might also have the fighting games. Let's double check here. Oh, this one doesn't have a manual. I think it probably also has the fighting games for all 3 consoles, and has the Turtles in Time and Hyperstone Heist. I don't recall if this has the actual arcade games or not. But either way, it's good. It's a good collection, and so I picked that up. It was really reasonably priced. Also very reasonably priced was Cuphead for PS4. I already had the Switch version that I had pre-ordered, but this was cool to find, and again, very inexpensive. So this was a no-brainer for me. I don't get to go to these game stores very often, especially not new ones that have stuff like this that I never see, so that was a treat. Pardon me. Circling back to Limited Run, they actually have started to deliver some stuff that we've been waiting on. One of those items is the Desitopia and Mekaritz Steel Rondo bundle. This has been a long time coming. It did come with a postcard as usual, and I got a code here for a, sorry we had to hit pause, and it has a coupon code or a discount code for 10 euros off my next order. Which maybe I'll use for something they already have in stock that I want. Certainly not going to pre-order anything more until they finish delivering what I'm waiting on. But in the meantime, I am glad this finally got a release. And so there's the outer box here. And then here's the inside contents. Here's the Desitopia and Mekaritz Switch pack. Go ahead and crack this bad boy open so you can get a good look. This is a pair of Dojin Shmups from the same developer, Hanaji Games. And it does look like this is reversible. Of course, this version is just some art on the back, which I think is Desitopia related, or maybe Mecharitz. And then the other version of the art is more in line with the outer box. I'm not sure which I like better. I guess it's a bit of a toss-up. Both very unusual games. Mecharitz is a bit more traditional in the sense that it's kind of a somewhat standard Danmaku, but supposed to be very approachable. Desitopia, however, is a very different beast. Horizontal shooter with an interesting weapon system. We, of course, have the soundtrack CD, which is 2 discs, one for Desitopia and one for Mecharitz. And I was going to look and see, is there a... There's not a pull tab. And of course I clipped my fingernails already, so I can't quickly break into that. So there is the front and the back. There's the Desitopia soundtrack, and we will reorient this. There's the Mecharitz soundtrack. There's also this poster, which has that art and that art. And then this is labeled as staff book. And that is definitely Mecharitz art on the front. I recognize that. I don't know what staff book means, but looks like maybe it's some explanation of the games and some stuff directly from the developers. Huh, interesting. Some screenshots, some art. Kind of a neat piece. Yeah, there's some Desitopia stuff. And then later in the book, yeah, there's Mecharitz stuff. Some enemy sprites. Pretty cool. Pretty cool designs on some of those. Yeah. So that'll be kind of neat to look through and see, you know, what all is in here. Quite a bit, actually. A lot of different art and stuff. So that is finally in my hands the Desitopia and Mecharitz Steel Rondo double pack. Glad that this is finally dropped. I'm still waiting on the Steel Empire Chronicles release, and of course the Ray's Arcade Chronology and the aforementioned IREM collections, but at least I have this and can finally play these on Switch via the real game. So yeah, that's going into the office, or into the pile to be ripped. Okay, let's see what next. Let's do another Retrobit release, and that is the recent Undeadline reissue. This was a Mega Drive vertical shmup, walk 'em up in some ways, if you will, since similar to Elemental Master. You're just walking vertically on the screen toward enemies and so forth. And once again, they always do this thing with the little blurb on the back, so I'll have to cut that out and figure out how to stick it in the package here. But yeah, Undeadline, 3010 of 3820. And I feel like I ordered mine relatively soon after it went up, so they must have sold through pretty quickly. This one was apparently very much anticipated. This I like. They used the original Mega Drive art on the front of the box. And so here we have the nice translucent blue cartridge. They always do fun stuff like that. And here is the instruction manual. Nice glossy full color joint, as is usually the case. Pretty cool stuff here. And then there's also this little envelope. Some art cards, or a couple of additional things here. That's pretty cool. You got this on one side, and then that on the other. And then you've got a vertical one here. So some nice little display cards that I suppose you could frame and put on display somewhere. That's kind of neat. Looks like the cover is reversible. So they did kind of do this other art that you see on those cards. I like the original Mega Drive art. It's very simple, but I like it. So I'm going to stick with that. Oh, hang on. That's not in there quite right. So again, another solid release from Retrobit, and one that I look forward to playing. Now I previously mentioned the Play Asia order that I had done, and that I had forgotten that I ordered that Zelda amiibo. And part of the reason is because the other stuff that I ordered at the same time that I pre-ordered this, which is the Shieldmaid MX Special Edition. This took a while before it finally got released, but very glad that this has finally dropped. Of course, the Switch version has been available digitally for some time now, but always wanted to have the physical. We have a nice Shieldmade sticker here. It is, of course, a PlayAsia physical exclusive. And so, let's go ahead and break the plastic. Become humanity's shield. I do like that they use the non-locking flaps as part of the package. Makes the box easier to open and you're not damaging it. So this is pretty cool. They have these little Switch Joy-Con covers, I guess you could say, that are Shieldmade themed. I probably won't use them, but it's a cool addition nonetheless. There's this little advertisement. This, of course, from Hit P Studios, their first game, and a good game. This is their certificate of ownership, 412 out of 1,000. I was actually in on this early with the PC release, and I was part of the alpha team way back when they kind of first started developing, and not immediately when they started developing, but early enough to where I got to play early builds of the game, provide feedback, and help in some small way shape the continued development of the game. Certainly not nearly as much as some of the other players, because I didn't get to play it as much as some of the other contributors did, but I hope that feedback I provided was at least helpful during that process. And then, of course, the CD soundtrack, which I'm gonna have to look at and compare, because I already bought the digital version of the soundtrack since Etrem did it. I bought that from his Bandcamp page way back when the game first dropped, and there was a bonus, or not when the game first dropped, but at some point later, there was like an expanded version of the soundtrack that had additional songs, because there was new modes added, and so at some point there were remixes of some of the tracks. And so I'll have to compare this track listing, because there's 22 tracks here. Yeah, this says album cut. Several of these say album cut. Or like there's this Flashwave version. So I'm guessing that there will be tracks on this CD version that were not in the digital Bandcamp release. If that's the case, then I'm very glad that I got the physical to have this, because then I will have the definitive version of that soundtrack. So anyway, always very happy to get these kinds of packages in the mail, and these kinds of things to go through. This is a cool game, and I'm not going to say that I'm 100% certain, but I'm going to say I'm 95% certain that I'll be streaming this game later in the year and covering it on my podcast later in the year. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. I'll leave the actual Switch game out so that can go on the shelf and be at the ready. And then the outer box will go on the shelf next to it. And the CD will go into the collection. Sadly, because it's a slimline case, there's no label. But game soundtracks in my CD collection almost always go based on the name of the game, except for when they are collections from a particular developer. Then the developer's name will be alphabetical, like I will with artist names. So anyway, I'm very geeky that way. Let's show off the most recent game that I bought, and that is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This, of course, is the Switch 2 edition. I know that the game has taken some flack, but I have enjoyed the Metroid Prime that I've played, and this was announced way back at the beginning of the Switch 2's life, or the beginning of the Switch's life. I want to say it was one of the games in either the first presentation or one of the earliest Nintendo Directs. And it's taken them forever to finally bring the game out, but I wanted to go ahead and get the Switch 2 version just so I would have the improved graphics and performance. And so here we are. Now, let's move on to something big. And I mean big in two senses. One is that the box is somewhat large, and also because it's a big deal. And that is the Lego Game Boy. When I heard about this announcement, I thought, I have to have this. And I almost pre-ordered it, but then I was like, it's big enough that it'll probably be available for a while. And so I didn't pre-order it. But then I saw it a few weeks or a few months later or whatever at Walmart. And I was like, yeah, I'm buying that right now. So that went directly into the shopping cart, and is now mine. I'm thinking about doing a stream where I just put this together, where I unpackage it and then just literally sit here and chat with everybody while I put it together. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do that, because ideally I would want to do the build in here, but all my streaming stuff is out in the living room. So I would either have to stream it just to my YouTube channel or just to my Twitch channel, and then export the video and upload it to YouTube and whatnot. Or I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But anyway, yeah, this I had to have, and so this I'm looking forward to digging into at some point so I can put it together. And then it does have a little display stand, so I'll be able to put it up in the living room and put it on display. I do like that it has multiple screens. The Nintendo logo when you first boot the Game Boy, and then also the Super Mario Land screen, which is probably what I'll have on mine. There's also a Link's Awakening cartridge, and it looks like there's a little Link's Awakening screen that you can put on there too. So that'll be fun to mess with. Anyway, definitely had to have that. And if that wasn't enough, I got one more thing. another thing that came from Retrobit and Castlemania, and that is the Toaplan Shooters Collection, Volume 2. This release was delayed for some time, and originally it was going to have Slapfight MD, Grindstormer, and Twin Cobra. But we found out at some point here recently that there was some licensing issues with Twin Cobra. I'm guessing, I don't know this for sure, but my assumption is that it has something to do with the fact that the game was developed by Trico and then published by Toaplan in Japan, and then published by, I think it was published by Sega in North America. And so there's probably a not insignificant amount of licensing hullabaloo that they would have to go through. But anyway, this is the second volume of Toaplan Shooters. Part of me wishes that they would have included a third game anyway, but maybe moved to doing Twin Hawk, aka Daisenpu. But I don't know if that was developed by Toaplan directly or how that works. And so I gotta figure out how to break open the plastic on this thing without damaging the outer box. There we go. Just enough space to get the box cutter in there. So I can be real careful about how I do this. Because I want to, as with the other releases, I want to save the little thing from the back. And so there you have it, the Toaplan Shooters Collection Edition Volume 2. It's kind of an awkward name, but there are 3 boxes inside of this large outer box. One of them, of course, being Slapfight MD. This is a curious release because it was one of Toaplan's earlier arcade shooters. The arcade version did get a release outside of Japan, but it was known over here as Archon. And may have been seen as a bit old-fashioned by the time the Genesis released in the US. And so this game never made its way here. But it is an enhanced take on the arcade game that that adds some cool new stuff and a banger soundtrack from Yuzo Koshiro. This is copy 333 of 3030. And it doesn't say Slapfight MD, but that's okay. And here you've got the kind of orangish red translucent cart. Always appreciate the Retrobit releases when they do that. There's the manual. And again, full color glossy pages, very high quality, very nice looking manual. And again, reversible art, which isn't vastly different. Actually, it looks like it's almost the same, except the spine, the logo on the spine is a little bit different. So probably not something I'll switch out, given that there's not a big difference between the two. I'll probably just leave it as the default art there. That is Slap Fight. Then we have Grindstormer, and this I'm very excited to have. This is a game that I've wanted on the Genesis for years, but cartridges were always way too expensive, and that was in part because it was a Tengen release originally in the North American version, and my understanding is that Tengen cheaped out on the boards that they used, and as a result, in the years since the original physical version came out, the circuit boards have deteriorated, and the game, a lot of these games don't even boot anymore. You take an original North American Grindstormer release and you look at it wrong and it's not going to boot properly. This is 2,462 out of 3060. This one, yeah, this one I think was very highly anticipated. And let's see, I wonder if they use the V5, which of course was the original Japanese version. And unlike a lot of these games, V5 and Grindstormer is an interesting case where there actually are very noticeable differences and notable differences in the gameplay between the two versions. One has a straightforward power-up system, very basic. The other is much more Gradius style. I think it's V5 is the more Gradius style, and Grindstormer is the more straightforward, if memory serves. And so, anyway, I think you'll be able to play either version on here, if I remember correctly. The original carts had both versions, and so if you booted up in a Japanese system or with Japanese BIOS, it would play V5, and if you booted up with a North American BIOS, it would be Grindstormer. And so there's your kind of milky, translucent cart with a nice little gold embossed logo there. And of course, your nice instruction manual. And the instructions do have yeah, I like this. It's got information on both games in here, and it says, "This game contains 2 challenging games in 1 cartridge. You won't need to stand in line with pockets full of coins." So they must have the ability to switch between them in the menu, or to choose which one you want to play, which is awesome, because that will be a major benefit when it comes time for me to stream this game and play it for the podcast. I'll be able to easily move back and forth. And so, yeah, Grindstormer mode and V5 mode. Very cool. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this one, because this is going to be This is going to be excellent. Oh, that's cool. And this even has Japanese in the manual as well. Which, of course, is nice because then they can sell it in both markets and have it be available. Something that was going to be included in the collection, but I assume something that was going to be outside of the major outer box because of the other game, is this item. But of course, now it is included with the other box. And I gotta figure out, okay, this is a slip cover, it looks like. And this is, yeah, Toplan Shooters Collection Volume 2. So here we've got, we've got this little folder here. Power upgrades. What is this? Puffy stickers. Oh, fun. And then here's Behind the Game with Masahiro Yuge. Oh, nice. Got a couple of things translated. Yeah. To English speakers, the title Slapfight sounds humorous. For most home console releases, it was changed to Alcon instead. Oh, okay. Slapfight was named by an American company we were doing business with at the time. We felt uncomfortable with the name, but perhaps the person who created the title felt as if he had been slapped when he played the game. Ah! That's funny. That's pretty cool, though. Nice little bonus there. Yeah, and then these puffy stickers. Man, I remember puffy stickers as a kid. I had a sticker book with many stickers, and there were puffy stickers in the mix. So those are pretty cool, actually. I'm going to leave those in the case, but that's a neat little bonus item. And of course, the real showpiece of the bonus. Oh, here we go. A couple things here. We've got these badges. We've got a Grindstormer badge and a Slapfight badge. Or patch, I should say. Yeah, they're little commemorative badges. I have thought about the possibility of seeing if I could get some shmup logos made into embroidered patches, and then make a for those of you into the metal scene like I am, you'll undoubtedly know about battle vests, where you go to a concert and you've got patches all over the vest from the various bands that you've seen. Well, I've thought about, what if I could do a battle vest but for shmups, and have logos of a bunch of these games that I have either 1cc'd or at least put a significant amount of time into. And so I'm still pondering that idea, but it would be cool to have these already, assuming I could ever 1cc either of these games. Yeah, but the real centerpiece of this is this clock. This Grindstormer clock, which has signatures from Masahiro Yuge and Tatsuya Uemura, who also put in Rock the Shooting under his signature. That's kind of fun. Let's break this open here. Yeah, fun little glossy art there. And then there's this bag of goodies in here. This has got some posts that go on the bottom there that you can use to stand up the clock. and then what looks like a USB cable for charging, charging and or just powering the device. I wonder if it has to be powered on all the time, or if it has a battery that will allow you to not have it plugged in all the time. If it has to be plugged in all the time, that's going to dictate where I put it in the living room. If not, then I may stick it on a particular shelf. But I may be able to figure something out. But yeah, nice, reasonably lengthy USB cable with a little barrel connector that'll go into the side of the unit right there. And then again, these little screw-in posts that will allow me to set it up right. And this little, oh, LED shows date, time, and temperature. Oh, neat. The calendar range is from January 1, 2000 to December 31st of 2099. Well, I will be long dead and buried by the time that comes around. And I'm guessing that my grandkids probably won't have any interest in a Grindstormer clock. We shall see. Maybe I can instill the love of shmups for them at some point. But yeah, the Total Plan Shooters Collector's Edition Volume 2. Nice set. Very cool batch of items here. And so I'm looking forward to messing around with these. Like I said, I might have to do a stream and play these two Undead line and then the three Master System releases that I got. Maybe do a lengthy like Saturday or Sunday afternoon stream where I can show all of those off, and oh, and then P47MD2 as well. So yeah, lots that I can do, lots that I can cover. And so anyway, cool stuff. I've already got some stuff in the mail right at the beginning of January, so I will have more to show off at some point. I may slow down a little bit with some of the purchases in 2026 just because you can't really see in the room here, but I'm kind of starting to run out of space for some stuff. And so I may not be able to buy as much as I have in the past. We shall see how that goes. But yeah, space is becoming a premium in this game room. And until I either upgrade to a house and get more space, or figure something out as far as my shelving situation, I may have to slow down a little bit, but we'll see. Anyway, that is all I have to show you. What do you think? What in here would most excite you? What would you play first? What would what would you enjoy the most out of everything that I've showed off today? Would you tear into the Lego Game Boy right away and put it together, or what would be your take on that? Let me know in the comments down below, and we can discuss that. But yeah, otherwise, that's all for now. And so I say, please consider subscribing, hitting the like on that video to do the algorithm thing. That always helps out. I have a small channel without much reach, but I always appreciate when people watch and leave me comments and and like the video. I don't do this for any kind of monetary reason. This is all just a hobbyist thing for me. Plus, this helps me document everything so that insurance purposes and all that. But anyway, yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you for playing, and game on.